This as the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, walked back his initial pledge that he would accept extradition if Manning was granted clemency. Joining me right now is Fox News military analyst, retired General Jack Keane. General, good to see you.
Oh, great to see you here,
Thank you so much for joining us. So this has been the big news. First off, what is your reaction to the commutation of Chelsea Manning?
Well, first of all, I can just tell you that everybody that I speak to in the military who's serving right now and who has served in Iraq and Afghanistan absolutely condemns it as really an irresponsible decision. I mean, Manning released more classified information than anybody in the history of the nation. That is treason. Number two, in those documents themselves were information, names and places where the United States military associated with Afghan citizens. The Taliban went on a killing spree to those places and to those people and killed hundreds of people. This man, now a woman, has blood on their hands. Blood on the hands.
Well, I mean, when this occurred, it was Bradley Manning, obviously.
Right.
And he had access to all of this secret information while serving in Iraq, a low-level analyst. There was some speculation yesterday in the media, the Wall Street Journal, suggesting in an op-ed that, you know, maybe it was the politically correct thing to do. It's transgender. Now Chelsea Manning in prison. What do you think about that? I mean, why did he do it?
Well, I think that's horrific. I don't dispute the fact. I think it's probably accurate that Manning is having difficulties in prison,
right.
Medical, maybe psychological, emotional. All right. That's not the first president that's ever had problems like that. There's medical help, and there's also mental help. That doesn't mean we commute a sentence and ignore the reality of what this former soldier did.
Particularly as so many other soldiers know not to do such a thing. What about Julian Assange? Now, initially, he just wanted Chelsea Manning, you know, he wanted clemency. He said, yeah, I'll be extradited to the United States. And now, not so fast.
Well, Assange is a coward. We know it. He lacks character. He lacks principle. Are we surprised that he's reneging on coming back to the United States? This is a man that's running from a rape charge and hiding, you know, in an embassy, seeking refuge there. Come on.
Now, he also was on Fox and told Sean Hannity that Russia was not the source of the leaks. Relations between the U.S. and Russia obviously growing strained with the concerns of uncertainty in the path moving forward. President Obama expressed his concerns to the incoming administration yesterday. I want to get your take on what he said at that press conference. Here's President Obama yesterday.
I think it is in America's interest and the world's interest that we have a constructive relationship with Russia. That's been my approach throughout my presidency. It would probably best serve not only American interests, but also the interests of preserving international norms if we made sure that we don't confuse why these sanctions have been imposed with a whole set of other issues.
You and I have spoken about sanctions in the past. There's new speculation that Donald Trump, perhaps Rex Tillerson, will roll back the sanctions against Russia. What do you think? Have they worked?
Well, first of all, they have not worked. Putin does what he wants to do regardless of the sanctions. Listen, Putin, we have had 3 presidents who've tried before President-elect Trump to have a relationship with Putin. All of them have failed at it. President Obama, I believe, was totally intimidated by Putin, and Putin sort of had his way with him. Actually, I think he paralyzed him in a sense because the president was afraid of adverse consequences of his actions, therefore he chose no action. But all of those negative actions, the status quo, all had huge consequences themselves. President-elect Trump should look at the sanctions, see if they're meaningful. I think he will have a better relationship with President Putin because of their personalities, but I believe Putin's not going to change his strategy. And at some point, we will have to hold Russia's behavior accountable unless they change that behavior. If that happens as a result of an improved relationship, all for the good, but I doubt it.
How do we do that, though, General? I mean, if Russia is ignoring everything anyway and it just does what it wants, what is President Trump supposed to do about it?
Well, it's not hard. I mean, even Mr. Tillerson, Rex Tillerson, in his confirmation hearing was suggesting that one of the things that could have been done in Ukraine when the Russians came into Ukraine was provide lethal aid to the Ukrainians to help them fight back at the Russians. We said no. We've never provided the lethal aid that the Syrian moderates have wanted, and we know that Syria is a debacle. Russia has eyes on the Baltics. We do not have a credible deterrence there in terms of U.S. forces or NATO forces. We're improving it, but it's nowhere near what it should be. Putin respects force, and he also respects the will to use it. And we have not done either one of those.
That's a really good analysis, actually. And you know what? Let's not forget the red line, because when we learned that Assad was using chemical weapons on his own people, President Obama said he was drawing this red line and then did nothing about it. So what does Putin do? He goes and he supports Assad.
Yeah. The president never truly understood. His whole national security team was recommending military action as a result of crossing the chemical red line that the Assad did. And the reason for that, it was not just the chemical weapons. That was the issue. But what the intent was is to change the momentum of the war against the regime, to bring the regime down. He crossed the red line. Let's take advantage of that, strike him hard, bring the regime down. Let's end the civil war. Whether that could have happened, I don't know for sure. But I do know this. There was a good chance it may have happened. And when he said status quo, pulled the weapons out, and didn't change momentum against the regime, 5 years later, we've got almost 600,000 people dead now. We've got 11 million people displaced, and we've got a huge migration problem that's spreading throughout Europe.
Serious implications here. General, good to see you.
It's good seeing you here.
Thank you so much. General Jack Keane joining us here.